Welcome to Health, Wellbeing and Lifestyle, where professionals in the field inform, educate and inspire the community to be healthier, more balanced and live the lifestyle they love. And today we have Caroline Pope in the studio. She's an animal communicator and therapist, and we are going to be talking about the art of animal communication. Welcome, Caroline.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
Yeah, it's lovely to have you. Now, can anybody communicate with animals?
Absolutely. We are all born with the ability to communicate. Communication is telepathics. Tele is distance, pathics is feeling. So essentially it's feeling over a distance. We're all born with the ability. A mother takes her baby into the hospital and says there's something wrong with my baby. The doctors and nurses always listen because most of the time there is. Identical twins, one just knowing what the other's doing, that's been documented throughout history. It's all telepathics. But of course, from the baby's perspective, unless it's actually dying, telepathics really don't get validated. Then the child says its first word, mom or dad or whatever. Everyone makes a fuss. So the child learns verbalizing gets my needs met, telepathics not so much. Then they get that bit older and they might say the pony's got a stomach ache or the dog's got a headache. And often parents will either punish the child for lying or make fun of them. Don't be silly, horses can't talk. So of course you start shutting down on one and building up on the other. And telepathics is like any muscle. You don't use it, you lose it.
And how can we communicate with animals?
Clear mind, always a good thing. People that meditate, I don't, often find that helpful. Water's really important because you're using your energetic field. It's electromagnetic. Think of the snowy hydro scheme. The more water you drink, the easier it is. As a coffee addict, I really struggled with that in the beginning. But also don't start with your own animals. Start with someone else's because you need to remain detached in order to know what you're getting is from that particular animal and not from yourself. It's like doctors don't treat their own children. Clairvoyants never read for themselves. You need that detachment, particularly when you're starting, and you also need honest feedback so you know whether you're on the right track or not.
Do you have any examples of animal communication that you could share?
Absolutely. Very first, when I'd read the book, I actually started by reading a book back in the mid-90s called, surprise, surprise, Communicating with Animals by a guy called Arthur Myers, who was a journalist. Went down the horse paddock and the first horse I saw told me it wanted clean water. I looked in the trough, there was nothing there. I spent 2.5 years working every day, giving myself the migraine from hell quite often before I got anything else. And every time that horse walked by me, if he was on the lead rope, he'd plant his feet, stop and eyeball me. I'd love to know what the poor guy was trying to get through. Never got through anything again. One horse I worked with, the owner had called me as a last resort. The horse twice a year would blow up massively with fluid. It was down at the Werribee Vet School. It actually had to have a tracheotomy to keep breathing. That's how much fluid we're talking. They were feeding it bananas by the dozen because they were having to give it so much Frutix or furosemide diuretics to get rid of the fluid that it was losing all its potassium. They were going to euthanize it. Again, this was before internet. She literally pulled out a whole trolley full of vet notes. Started talking with the mare and the first thing she showed me was her foal and then said problems been since then. And the owners went, oh my God, she's never come back in season since she had the foal. And then they realised that the twice a year she was having the problem was actually when horses come in season twice a year. And it was when this was happening. A craniosacral therapy session from, this was before I did it, from the lovely Deb Lee, and a couple of bottles of she oak, the Australian bushflower essence, and the mare never had a problem again. Craniosacral therapy was derived from osteopathy, I think about 35, 40 years ago, but don't quote me on the dates. There was a couple of different people that discovered it, but basically your cranio is your cranium, sacral is your sacrum. The craniosacral rhythm can be felt anywhere on the body. You've got your heart rate, you've got your respiratory rate, you've got your cranial rhythm. CST, as it's called, craniosacral, CST for short, much easier for most people, works on the limbic system in the brain, so the emotional part of the brain. The most pressure you're putting on a body is literally that of a 5-cent piece. And then it's basically that whole doing and non-doing. The body's got its own wisdom. It knows what it needs. And quite often what a practitioner thinks the body needs versus what the body actually needs is a little bit like the Montagues and the Capulets. So you're simply allowing the body to unwind. And that's what I love about it. You'll have physical releases. You'll have emotional releases. Animals can process for 2 to 3 days afterwards. And the results really are profound. And yet it's so gentle you can do it on a newborn.
And could you give us some tips on how we can communicate with animals?
Think of, for most people, I think they find the proverbial thought bubble. You know, the little cartoon bubbles, putting a thought in there and throwing it at the animal. And whatever you get back first, that very instantaneous, that's communication. Quite often when I'm talking with an animal, the owner will get as far as, did he, do they? I've already got the answer, yes or no, because a thought is instantaneous. Trying to put words to something, particularly if it's an important concept, can take you a second or two. And of course, the thoughts being so instantaneous, it's trust your gut. That's the biggest thing. And whatever comes into your mind first, don't try and do the logical right brain versus left brain argument. You only wind up with a headache. Trust that gut. Whatever you get instantaneously and first is right. Every time.
Caroline, thank you so much for joining us. That was fascinating. If you want more information on Caroline Pope and the art of animal communication, head to her webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. Stay with us after the break, another interesting guest with an exciting topic.
After the break, breathwork expert and life coach Christine Hart-Savage will be talking about developing emotional intelligence. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and our next guest is breathwork and life coach Christine Hart-Savage, and the topic we'll be discussing today is developing emotional intelligence. Welcome, Christine.
Thank you, Megan. It's great to be back again.
Christine, emotional intelligence is a really hot topic at the moment. Could you describe for us what emotional intelligence is?
Emotional intelligence is huge, absolutely huge. It's one of those things that we think, what is emotional intelligence? We've got, academic sort of intelligence, IQ, and this is EQ. And I think we have SQ, which is spiritual intelligence as well. Emotional intelligence, I'll tell you what it isn't first. And I used to have a lot of the isn't, like a lot of us do. So in my earlier life, I was so sensitive to everything, I was reactive. Now, when we have emotional reactions going on inside us, whether we actually act on them or not, we're charged. So there's this constant feeling of being sucked down the rabbit hole. That emotion that takes us away from being present. We can't see anything clearly when we're in an emotional state, a charged emotional state. And most of us are reactive to that. So we go through life and whatever's happening around us, or maybe a friend makes a comment, or a husband or a wife makes a comment, or a teacher, or whoever it might be, and suddenly we feel this feeling inside. And we are gone. We're actually not there anymore. When we're in that is not emotional intelligence. We are lost in an old pattern of behaviour, an old pattern of thinking and feeling. So we want to avoid that sort of thing. So we have to work on healing those deeper layers and bringing our emotional pains and hurts and traumas into balance.
Christine, do you think we have our own ability to choose our own personal path?
I definitely think we do. And this is something that I did not realise when I was younger. I bounced around, just reacting to whatever life brought into my world. I did not know that we could choose our thoughts. I did not know that thoughts created. I did not know that we could choose to work with our emotional state and bring it into harmony and balance. Yes, I do believe we can choose who we want to be in the world. Most definitely.
Do you have any examples you'd like to give us of this?
I'll talk about a realization I had one day. I studied metaphysical science, and I love metaphysical science. And I was reading some of the literature, and it suddenly occurred to me, wow, I have made such a mess of my life. So all that emotional attachment I had to things and reactions is a lot of life force being wasted on drama, wasted on chaos. And I thought, if I can really choose who I'm going to be in the world, and I can change my thoughts and my reactions, I could use that energy and life force to create something wonderful for myself. What if I had the power to do that? So what I did then was look at values. And I thought, well, what are my values? What do I value? And who are the people that I admire in life? And one of them was my grandmother. She is the most beautiful, beautiful, loving lady, my grandmother. I was very close to her. And I thought, what are the qualities that she shows that I like? And she was warm, she was friendly, she was authentic, she was strong, and she laughed a lot. And she was clever. And I thought, I love all of those qualities. I don't know if I have them, but I'm going to choose those qualities, and I'm going to actually start bringing them into my life and embodying them. I'm going to choose the values I like and really whittle those down to a few and start to live those values and bring those qualities of those values into my life, to bring them into my being and to live them and to act them out. And one of the thoughts I had, Megan, was, if I am choosing to be a certain way in life, is that a lie? Or is it the truth? And I thought, well, is my past and who I've been a lie or the truth? And then I started to think about, well, I've made a bit of a mess of my earlier life. If I can create a new life, one that I like, that is more peaceful and flowing and interactive with people, surely that's the way to go. So I decided that it was a choice. It's a choice to be who we're choosing to be in life. And then having the ability and the commitment to step into those values and embody the qualities of those values. So I started to do that. And I've worked with my mind so much in my life. So one of the things with emotional intelligence is being able to become non-reactive, non-attached to outcomes of things. So to do that, I use my breath a lot in my life to balance myself.
Christine, what should the viewers and I do to develop our own emotional intelligence?
Really become aware of yourself. Become aware of your thoughts. Become aware of your emotions. Become aware of your actions. And then line those up with the values that you hold dear to you. And try to embody those, the qualities of those values into your life and act those out. So it does take a lot of practice. And one of the things is, any time and every time you catch yourself being caught up in some emotion or feeling like, I'm going to get back at that person, that payback sort of energy, catch that. And every time you catch it, don't go crooked yourself. Put your arm up, bend it at the elbow, pat yourself on the back and say, I caught myself. I am moving forward. I am getting it. So we can work in a way that we're kind to ourselves, but we need to be really focused and really committed to making those changes, but it's worth it, because then we design who we're going to be and we can live a really wonderful life by our own life design. By leading ourselves in our life, we become much more emotionally intelligent.
Thanks, Christine. That's such fantastic information. If you'd like to know more about developing emotional intelligence or Christine Hart-Savage, go to her webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. And after the break, we'll have another interesting guest with another interesting topic. Stay tuned. After the break, Sue Williams, Doctor of Quantum Counselling and Clinical Hypnotherapist, will be talking about what happens in your brain under hypnosis, unveiling the science. Welcome back. Our next guest, Sue Williams, is a Doctor of Quantum Counselling and a Clinical Hypnotherapist, and the topic we'll be discussing today is what happens in your brain under hypnosis. Welcome, Sue.
Thank you, Megan. It's lovely to be here again.
So, Sue, what does actually happen in your brain when you're under hypnosis?
So I should just explain our levels of consciousness first. So we are in our normal conscious awareness at the moment. We're using the frontal lobe in our brain to create our thoughts. And in this brainwave, which is beta, it allows us to plan, to think of things in the future, which is an unusual concept. I imagine it's specific to humans, but it's something that we create rather than something that is actually happening, but we're using our consciousness, our awareness. If we're doing a project, if we're doing anything that requires us to do calculations or be creative, that sort of thing. So that's our conscious awareness in the beta brainwave. If we get really excited, it can go up to high beta. And these are all brainwaves that can be monitored with electrical equipment, so we know exactly what that brainwave is at any particular time if we need to. So for hypnosis, we go down to a lower brainwave, a slower brainwave, which is alpha, and that normally is the precursor for going to sleep. So our mind quietens, it just slows down a bit, and then that allows the analytical conscious mind just to drift off and do its own thing for a while, and our subconscious mind then can come forward and we can deal with that in our hypnosis sessions. Further down than that, if we go into an unconscious state, then we're going down into even deeper, slower brainwaves. So that's when we're in a really deep sleep or for any other reason that we may be unconscious, but we're not aware. We are aware in hypnosis when we're in that alpha brainwave, and that is what makes the sessions so accessible for people to discuss things, because they can speak quite normally and hear what the hypnotherapist is saying. So they are still aware, but they're just not in this normal awareness that we have for most of the day. As humans, we're in and out of trance all day. People say, I can't be hypnotised. And I think, well, have you ever experienced reading a really good book, something where you get really engrossed? You're sitting there reading, your conscious mind is creating all the scenes from the words, and you're experiencing everything that's happening in that book. And an hour's gone by and I haven't even realised it. So you, in essence, have been in trance. Or if you go a similar route from work to home each day, you leave work and you're planning whatever else you have to do. You have to go and buy groceries, or you have to take the kids to sport or whatever. And you get home and you think, how did I get here? And your subconscious mind has taken over because it knows how to drive. If it's a regular route that you go through, it knows which intersections you have to be careful at. And you have been perfectly safe because that's the subconscious mind's job, to keep you safe. So it's something that we do regularly, all day, every day, in and out of trance, just for a few seconds perhaps, or for longer, depending on what we're doing.
Is there any scientific evidence to back it up?
Oh, absolutely. If we go back to the 18th century, so the 1700s, Franz Mesmer People will know the term being mesmerised, being really engrossed in something. He was probably one of the fathers of more modern hypnosis. It changed from just trance to being hypnosis. And through the 19th century, there were further developments, but it really got going in the 20th century with a lot of scientific research, how the mind works specifically during hypnosis. I know in a lot of movies they show that you can have your mind taken over by the hypnotist, and that person can make you do all sorts of things that you would not normally do. Well, in real life, it's almost impossible for the hypnotherapist to take over your brain, because your morals, your thought patterns, the way you live your life is so strong within you. So don't be scared about what you see in the movies, because it's not possible in normal hypnotherapy sessions.
What can you offer our audience that would like to go on this journey themselves?
I've said many times, I wish people would come to the hypnotherapist as their first port of call, not as that last desperate effort to find help. And because it's becoming to be more widespread, hypnotherapists are tending to specialise. In the past, you would go to a hypnotherapist for just everything, like you would go to a GP. But now you can actually go straight to that specialist hypnotherapist. So if you have a lot of stress, if you have anxiety, depression, that type of thing, we have so many really good qualified hypnotherapists who can help you specifically with that. My practice is helping athletes and sporting teams, and by doing that I can help them with their mental focus, get them to train their own brains so that when they're on the starting line or out with the team waiting for the whistle to blow, they go into the zone. So we can train them to do that. We can train them to use their mind to overcome injuries so that they can get back on the field so much quicker. Very common ones obviously are ceasing smoking and shedding weight. So there are a lot of specialist practitioners who can help you with that as well. And I really have not heard of anyone who's not a genuine, caring, helping person.
Thanks so much, Sue. If you'd like to know more about Sue Williams and what happens to your brain when it's under hypnosis, please go to her webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. And we'll say goodbye for now and see you next week. If you'd like to know more about our show, please like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram and subscribe to our YouTube channel.